My name is Sunny, and welcome to my exploratory data analysis on veggies. Now, why did I choose this topic? I like being healthy, and veggies are a great way to be healthy. Eating them, of course. And I'm curious about learning about different veggies because myself, I don't have a big variety. So let's see if I can learn something cool about all the veggies around the world. And, optimizing for a lot of different factors. And in this data set, price, calories, and shelf life were big three quantitative measures. And before we go any further, you just have to see that broccoli is the GOAT. Broccoli is best vegetable. What are the healthiest vegetables? What? Broccoli. Broccoli. Why broccoli is one of the healthiest vegetables you can eat? We have a fairly clean data set with no NaN values, and some entries had the same name and scientific name as each other. In that case, I just took the first entry. There was also one super expensive item, so I removed anything that was more than 4 standard deviations away from the mean price, and it turns out that was wasabi. Wasabi is a vegetable, and turns out it's really expensive. As for the columns, the ones in bold are the ones I mainly analyzed, and the other columns I looked at to find any patterns. The mean price is $4.39 per kilogram, and the dataset is fairly well distributed around the mean. Most prices are within plus minus 1 standard deviation, so top 5 and bottom 5 prices on the left. As for the cheapest ones, these are pretty recognizable, but the most expensive ones, I didn't recognize any of them. So here's some images. So Samphire, already at the top, looks a little bit like thyme. Fillhead fern, this curly looking plant. And then Oca. Romanesco, this is sometimes called like broccoli Romanesco because it's sort of like broccoli. And wing bean. First, let's look at shelf life. Or the vegetables with the lowest shelf life, looks like the minimum is 5. And the vegetables with the highest shelf life, garlic's at the top. You can see this graph on the right. You see most veggies, obviously let's look at the price first. So price, most veggies are centered on the more left side. And then there's actually garlic, which is a big outlier with a shelf life of 120 days. Let's see if there are any patterns. I looked at a few of the other columns, and I think category and color are the most interesting. The vegetables with the bottom 5 shelf life are all leafy, green. These are the veggies that they're more stereotypical veggies that you think of as, I need to get my nutrition in, so maybe I'll eat these. As for bottom 5, you see these are like potatoes, right? Or, I mean, sorry, not bottom 5, but top 5 shelf life. Green is gonna not give you good shelf life, and not green is gonna give you good shelf life. And these are like your tubers, your bulbs, your roots. If you want to optimize for shelf life and build a good collection, you want to put these in your pantry. Now, calories. Calories, sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. You want to bulk up, eat more calories. If you want it for the nutrition, which is like generally more of how veggies are used, you don't really prioritize the calories. But let's take a quick look. Calories, veggies are very much centered around like 40, under 60, mostly under 60, even under 40 kcal per 100 grams or 400 kcals per kilogram. As for patterns, again, category and color are the columns to look at here. In the ascending category, you see the kcals of those that are leafy are not very high. So these are your green stuff again. If you cook these are often the ones that have a lot of water. As for those that are more expensive, these are, again, your tubers, similar to last time, the cheap ones. So these ones are very calorie dense. And then colors, they correspond with what you think based on the category. So the leafy stuff is mostly green, and the non-leafy stuff, the tubers and the bulbs, these are all variety of color, but more dull-ish colors. Now, very interesting finding. Veggies with a lot of R's in their scientific name tend to have fewer calories. You see this graph? You can sort of draw a descending line. This is a rough line of best fit. Here are veggies with a lot of R's in their scientific name. So these ones all have 4, and they also tend to be on the lower side of the number of calories. The R value here is minus 0.2777, and that is a decent number. I mean, what I did here is p-hacking. In stats, your p-value is the chance of data occurring by chance. And typically this is like where your p should be less than 0.05. And in this case, because the alphabet has 26 values, our p-value should be 1 in 26, right? And 1 in 26 is less than 1 in 20, so our finding could be considered significant. But this is a classic example of p-hacking. On the right is a classic XKCD comic, basically what p-hacking is, using jelly beans. And on the bottom you can see some of my code. I just looped through all the letters in the alphabet to maybe find some sort of correlation. And then you can pick that one and then say you found something, even though it's just pure coincidence or doesn't really matter. In this case, what we should have done, because we're looping over all the letters, is divide that typical p-value by another 26. And in that case, our 1 in 26 will not satisfy this case. All right, that's it. Here are my takeaways. Garlic has a great price and shelf life. Garlic was one of the cheapest and by far the most long-living vegetable. Long-lasting vegetables are quite cheap. So 4 of the 5 highest shelf life vegetables are 2 standard deviations lower than the mean price. So these are going to be very cheap by weight, and they're going to give you a lot of calories. So if you're starving, maybe consider eating these. Although they typically weren't very nutritious, right? Otherwise, the veggies highest in calories and longevity are not green. Again, these are the bulbs, sort of the fat veggies, not the green stuff. And then veggies with more R's tend to have fewer calories. While that's true, it doesn't really mean anything. That's it for my EDA, and thank you for watching.